So in this video, I want to talk about a number of scenarios about how the war will play out. And we really don't know how it's going to play out, but here's a couple of ways that we can think about it. So I'm going to start here with this. Hungary wants Ukraine as a buffer zone between Russia and Europe. Great. A buffer zone would serve the interest of both Russia and Europe. Hungary's European Affairs Minister told the Financial Times. Of course, it wouldn't serve the interest of Ukraine at all as they're being partitioned. Andrew Perpetua put this as his map of a demilitarized zone. All of this area of Russia, all the way through here on the border. I can get behind that one. This was some time ago that he put that map out, but yeah. Okay, so Ukraine needs to be militarized to the teeth. This is the opposite approach, says Finnish President Stubb. The only real solution to deter Moscow would be to militarize Ukraine to the teeth. And Stubb in Finland knows what he's talking about, being in Finland. Okay, during the Cold War, now here's another scenario of how things could go. So one, Russia wants to demilitarize Ukraine. Two, folks like Stubb want to militarize Ukraine so it can't be invaded again. Here is a leading Britain's conversation with John Bolton and what he has to say about how things could go, and it's not very happy.
That make the White House think in any way again about the position it's taken?
I think the U.S. is already damaged in the world by this flip-flop, by bringing Russia out of isolation. Putin himself, I think even before the inauguration, Trump said that he hoped to visit Moscow and wanted Putin to come and visit the United States. And you can see from the reaction of the German chancellor-to-be saying he wanted independence from the United States. You got to be very careful with that kind of rhetoric. It's a permission slip for Donald Trump to withdraw from NATO completely, which he almost did in 2018.
An American departure from NATO would actually be very bad for the world, in my estimation.
In the Cold War, it was the Soviet objective to split the West. We're well on the way to giving them that objective right now.
That takes me perfectly on to my next question, which is about the role of Britain and the other so-called coalition of the willing 29 other states. The idea that British and French troops will be on the ground in Ukraine, backed up by other countries, to try to maintain the peace or police the deal or whatever it is, without American support. Giving candid advice to your British friends, is this a good idea?
Well, Prime Minister Starmer has said repeatedly that he expects U.S. backup for this, intelligence, logistics, that sort of thing. I'm not sure Trump is going to agree to that. So if that's critical, I'm not sure that the peacekeeping force really gets off the ground. Now, what I've read about the proposal is, if I understand correctly, this would be a robust peacekeeping force that would act against a breach of the ceasefire. Unlike traditional UN peacekeeping forces, which simply use force only in their own self-defense. Have people in Britain and France really thought that through? Are they prepared to fight Russian troops who violate a ceasefire?
So if Putin hasn't decided that he's going to stop and they do this, then that becomes World War III, because Putin decides to violate things.
Well, exactly. That's the point. Are we stumbling towards a full military confrontation with Russia, sending in troops initially as peacekeepers, but then the Russians keep advancing and we are forced into fighting them? There's no question of a doubt that Western Europe is not properly prepared yet to take on Russia in a full-scale war.
Yeah, I mean, this is look, UN peacekeeping forces are often ridiculed for good reasons, but they at least understand they're not going to fight in Lebanon. They're not going to fight Hezbollah or fight the Israelis. They're simply going to report back to headquarters, which is why I think from the Russian point of view, this is people are distracted from the main point, which is what is going to stop the Russians after they regroup, restock their army, fill it up with new recruits. They came in 2014. They didn't get as much as they wanted. They came in 2022. They haven't gotten as much as they wanted. What Putin wants is the Russian Empire back.
That's right.
He's not interested in the settlement in Ukraine. He'll agree now, perhaps because it's in his interest to take a breather. But he's coming back again, and if we don't deal with that, we're guaranteeing it. And worse than just Russia, It's what they think in Beijing. They can.
Yeah, so that's where Putin is. Now, with that, I want to couple this. I showed this the other day, but I want to show it again. This is Derek Prince. He is, or Eric Prince, sorry. He is the guy that started Blackwater. Just listen to what he says, because we think about, like, there's 900,000 casualties as of today. Well, tomorrow, but I mean, I'm sure at this point in the day, there was like, we're 600 away from being 900,000 this morning. So I'm sure we're there. Okay. It's not about casualties. Listen to what he has to say, his estimation of what's actually happened to the Russian army.
We're very good at is electronic warfare. A lot of American stuff, Javelin missile, HIMARS, Copperhead missiles, which is a guided artillery shell. It works for a week or two, and the Russians figure out how to jam the navigation or the command link, and the stuff goes blind. You look at even what's happening in Ukraine. First of all, don't listen to the idiot politicians that say, yeah, we've degraded the Russian army. No, we have chewed up a lot of material. The Ukrainians have killed a lot of people unnecessarily. It's a really dumb war. The Russian army has gotten infinitely smarter. If you shot at a Russian with artillery in March or April of 2022, it would take them an hour and a half to shoot back accurately. Now, about 2 minutes, which means if you shoot at them, you better be in your vehicle and hauling ass.
Okay, so yeah, so that's where the Russians are. They're getting better. Now they can keep creating it, they can keep reforming it and adding, mobilizing and doing more. So, and I think Putin wants to keep coming. And here are the propagandists talking about this, praising the Ukrainian army and saying that Russia should prepare for war against France, Great Britain, Germany right after the end of the war in Ukraine. Yeah, you win the war in Ukraine, then you scoop up the Ukrainian army and make them fight for you against what would have been your allies. Crazy. Okay, here's Steve Rosenberg talking about like what he's seeing from the Russian papers. Let's just listen to the sentiment about from the Russians here.
In Moscow, some things are changing. Winter here, slowly giving way to spring. But no change in the political weather. No compromise in the air. Listen to the language President Putin used today. The Russian army, he said, was completely routing Ukrainian forces in Russia's Kursk region. No mention of Tuesday's telephone call with Donald Trump. But the Russian papers were full of it. Vladimir Putin believes that Russia is winning the war against Ukraine and is in no rush to declare a comprehensive ceasefire. Moscow seeks maximum pressure on Kyiv.
We could talk about a complete Russian victory if Ukraine becomes a real buffer zone, demilitarized buffer zone with very limited armed forces, with very limited practical cooperation with.
Yeah, it becomes a buffer zone and no NATO. Yeah, that's what they want. Meanwhile, J.P. Lindsley, I interviewed him not too long ago, and he was saying this, and I think it's worth repeating. And he put this into a little bit on his feed, and it's just listen to him.
Russia's biggest fear right now is that MAGA and Ukraine will be united. That's because then Ukraine would be unstoppable. You know, if you see a spark of light, you know, let's give it more energy. And because something was changing, and we lost so much momentum with that Oval Office meeting. And so, but this is always the case with Trump. It is the most recent message, and it has to be very clear. In reaching MAGA, it can't be a lecture. It has to be, look, we understand what you're angry about. So are we. Washington has lied to all of us. We're sick of it. Let's transform this together. And you know, with Ukraine, America could have as its best friend the most battle experienced and innovative army in the free world, and the most value-driven country in Europe. I mean, everything that Americans say they want is here, and we just have to help them see it. And that is a big challenge. But I think it is, you know, Russia's biggest fear right now is that MAGA and Ukraine will be united.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was his argument. If you want to see the whole thing here, see this video, Ukraine is a solution MAGA is searching for but can't see. This was 4 days ago, and I do a lot of videos, so you have to go back. I'll see if I can link this below. It was a great conversation. Okay. And the propagandists just keep coming, and Trump and Zelensky have agreed that there's peace in Ukraine that's achievable, but who's in the way? Putin's the impediment. Let's listen to this.
Trump wants peace, Europe wants peace, Ukraine wants peace, and there's only one missing, that's Putin. And now that he comes back with his proposal a week after a full and unconditional ceasefire was proposed, that he wants to limit that to only energy infrastructure, that just shows that he has not let go of his maximalist goals, and he only wants to be cherry picking, essentially. Trump wants peace, Europe wants
peace. Yeah, and so when I was a kid, I remember a friend's older brother walking down the street. He clearly had a black eye, had just been in a fight. I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, he wanted to fight and I didn't, so we fought." That's the way it's going to work. And I don't think that Putin's planning on going anywhere. In fact, AI predicts the winner of the 2036 Russian election. I think that's probably what he's going to be trying to do. Yeah. So there's a number of scenarios of which way we could go. Like if like, let's just go back to the JP Lindsley bit here. Like if we were really smart and we thought through this, like Ukraine is everything that we want to be, or like it's very much what we want to be. Like it's got a budding free market. They want freedom. They are crazy entrepreneurial. I mean, there's all kinds of good things there, but we'll either go this direction or we'll go in a very different direction. All right. Tell me what you think about that, my friends. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.